Hello students and welcome to the economics board analysis video. We've already discussed in brief what are the things that is expected of you and what are the common mistakes that are made by the students while writing or while attempting their paper. But due to time constraints, we were not able to get into the details of it and explain in detail. So today we bring to you a video on how to write your board paper in the best way possible that will help you fetch better marks, and what are the mistakes that you must avoid while attempting your economics board paper. So without further delay, let's get to it. Let's get started. Now, when you are solving your paper, you must decide whether you're solving section A first or section B first. Now, whatever section that you're solving, make sure you write the name of the section on top, right? And make it clear to the paper corrector that you're solving this part of the question paper first. Write the question number and the sub-question number neatly. Yeah. Now, your question is, how does land differ from other factors of production, right? Now, this is a question where you're expected to write. What are you expected to write? You're expected to write how land is different from other factors of production. So students, I'm insisting, please read your questions carefully and understand what is supposed to be written. Many a times it has been observed that students just read the question and they blindly write any features that they remember, they know in this answer. No, that's not how this answer is supposed to be written. You have to point out those striking different features that makes land a totally different factor of production as compared to the other factors of production. What is different about land as compared to other factors of production? That is what you have to show in this answer. So land is limited in supply and land has many uses. You can use land for n number of things. So these are the two factors, these are the two features that makes land different from other factors of production. This is what you have to highlight in your answer and not just any feature of land, right? So please read your question carefully, understand what is expected and write your answers accordingly. Head points must be created. If you do not remember the textual head points, create your head points, but it is advisable that you have a head point, underline those head points neatly and write suitable explanation for those head points. Now, since this is a 2-mark question, you will write 2 header points, underline those 2 head points and also write suitable explanation for those, right? Now, what to do when there is a distinguish between question that you're faced with? First of all, and I've mentioned this time and again, distinguish between answer must be compulsorily written in a table format rather than paragraph format. A paragraph format, while attempting the answer for distinguish between, is a big no-no, right? Create complete sentences. Many times it has been observed by the board that students tend to stick to 1 or 2 words and leave their answer incomplete. No, you're not supposed to do that. Try and complete your sentences, frame proper sentences to support your distinguishing points. Revise through the concepts of different kinds of inflation. Now, what are the different kinds of inflation? Creeping inflation, running inflation, walking inflation, and hyperinflation. So you have 4 types of inflation. Of course, you have cost push and demand pull inflation as well. But here, when talking with respect to these 4 types of inflation, make sure you understand and you're aware of the different percentage change. Now, the percentage change in the price level annually for all these different kinds of inflation is different. So make sure that you are aware and you're clear with what percentage change happens in which kind of inflation, right? Next, now question 2a. Now this is a new question, a new main question, that is question 2. So take it on a new page. Try solving it on a new page, right? So take new page for each new main question. Now the question is, what is COPRA and what are the objectives of COPRA, right? So first of all, when such a question is asked, please write down the extended form of COPRA. What is COPRA? COPRA is nothing but Consumer Protection Act. And then go about and write the statement that you pick up from the question itself. The objectives of COPRA are, like you can see over here, Before just writing down the points, write the statement first that you pick from your question itself. So the objectives of COPRA are, and then write any two objectives. Write them in point-wise format, makes it look more neat and more clear. Next, now here, this kind of a question is a statement kind of a question, okay? So the question is, indirect taxes, it comes in inverted commas, indirect, the statement comes in inverted commas, indirect taxes sometimes help in social reforms. Explain how. So this is a sentence kind of a question, a sentence format kind of a question. So what are the things that you must keep in mind? How do you go about solving a sentence or statement and explain the statement? This is how you will do it, right? Justify your statement. So whatever answer you write, okay, justify your statement. It should justify why that statement holds true or why that statement you feel is wrong or false. Okay, so justify your statement. Repeat the statement at the end of the question. Every sentence or a statement form of a question the answer must be concluded by repeating the statement at the end by adding, thus at the beginning of the sentence. Thus, this statement is true, or thus, indirect taxes help in social reforms. But why? That you have already justified above in your answer, right? Give examples to support your answer. Like over here, you can see that indirect taxes are imposed on socially undesirable goods. For example, cigarette, wine, opium, etc., which are not good for consumption. So their imposition on these kind of goods. What happens when you impose indirect taxes on these kind of undesirable goods? The prices will increase. Indirect taxes are imposed, the prices are going to increase. So when the prices increase, they become costlier and therefore their consumption cuts down. And this helps to bring about a social reform, and therefore indirect taxes are helpful in bringing about a social reform. So this is how you justify your answer. Write it in such a way that you justify your statement that is given as a question. Include examples so that it can help you support the answer. Those examples will support your answer and make it look more unique and more better. Now moving on to section B. Now since you're starting a new section, write the name of the section on the top. Here, like you see on your screen, section B is written on top. So it becomes clear that you're attempting the next section of the paper. Write the question number and the sub-question number clearly. Yeah. Now the question here is, what do you understand, or what is the rightward shift of the demand curve, right? Now if such a question is asked for 5 marks, what you will do is, you will write the definition first. You will explain what is the rightward shift. What is the rightward shift? Yes, students, what is the rightward shift? The rightward shift is nothing but increase in demand. So you would write down the definition for increase in demand and say that because of so and so factors, when the demand increases, okay, it causes a rightward shift in the demand curve. So you get an altogether new demand curve, right? So that is why it is known as a rightward shift. So basically it is increase in demand. So you have to explain that very nicely and try to elaborately explain it and include everything that there is to explain in that definition. Then construct a schedule so that it supports the explanation that you have written above. The schedule will consist of price column and the demand column. Now students, increase. What is the concept of increase in demand? Your price remains constant and your demand is increasing because of other factors. So you see here on your screen, your price is 5. It is constant. It is not changing. It is 5. But the demand is keeping on increasing from 15 to 20 to 25. So your increase in demand with price held constant. So your explanation and your schedule has to match. It has been noticed that students tend to make mistakes in this. They write the definition properly, but they mess up the schedule. They make mistakes in the schedule because they're habituated to price increase hota hai, demand kam hota hai, right? So they draw the normal demand scenario, demand and price relations. They show that schedule. No, you have to make sure that your definition, your explanation matches with your schedule. Okay. Now, whatever schedule that you have constructed over here, whatever numbers and figures you've given for your price and your demand, it has to match again with your demand curve which shows increase in demand, right? Now, while drawing the diagram, while drawing the demand curve, what are the things you must keep in mind? First of all, children, please use a scale, a pencil while drawing the diagram. Do not draw it roughly. Do not use a pen to draw your diagrams, right? Please use a pencil and a scale and draw your diagrams. So you have both your axes which you will draw, that is your x-axis and y-axis. Name the axis correctly, perfectly. Name the point of origin O, yeah. Name the axis, what is measured on what axis. Apart from x and y, you also have to mention, right? What is measured on what? Yes, the price is always measured on the y-axis and the quantity is measured on the x-axis. So name that as well. Now, keeping in mind the schedule that you just created in the previous slide, you will construct and plot the price as well as the demand on this diagram, right? So your price is OP, yeah? So that OP is your price, 5, and your OQ is the initial price, right? Now you have to show increase in price. Now you have to show increase in demand. So your price will remain constant. So your price will remain constant. You will just extend the line. It will just extend, but your quantity will shift to the right. That is exactly what you have to show here. So show increase in a variable with an ascending order of letters. Show arrows, extremely important, students. Arrows must be there to indicate a rightward shift, because what happens is that in the absence of arrows, you tend to lose marks, right? So if it is now since this question is asking you for a rightward increase, the arrow has to move rightwards. Name your demand curves DD and D1, which is your new demand curve, right? And this is not how your answer ends. After drawing the demand curve, please write down the explanation to the figure. Many students tend to forget this. You have to write the explanation at the end of the demand curve, which is extremely important. Now, how do you write the explanation? The above diagram shows, what does it show? It shows increase in demand with the price being constant, right? So say the price is OP, which is constant, and the demand increases from original demand OQ to OQ1, thereby causing a rightward shift from demand curve DD to DB1, right? So this is how you will write your explanation. So what are the things that you're supposed to write? Write down the meaning of rightward shift, write down the meaning of increase in demand, what causes the rightward shift, the schedule, the diagram, as well as the explanation for the diagram or the demand curve, right? So this is how you write your 5-mark answer. But students, if in case it is asked for 2 marks, how will you go about? You will write the meaning, that is you will write increase in demand, and directly jump to the diagram and the explanation. No need to draw the schedule, okay? Yes, for 2 marks as well, you're supposed to draw the diagram. Now the next question, if you see over here, it is asked in 2 parts. Like I told you, I had mentioned it in the CS video as well, that the functions of central bank is a very important concept, and it is a very, very important question from the board point of view. Now the similar concept and the similar topic is there in eco as well. So students, I insist that you study this topic thoroughly. You study all the functions of central bank thoroughly, and do not leave anything for option in this particular topic. Now see students, this is the question that I've taken from previous board papers, right? Now the question is divided into 2 parts. First of all, they're asking you to name the institution which enjoys monopoly of note issue. Second, you're supposed to explain any 2 functions, not of your own choice. They have mentioned what specific function they are expecting you to write down. So when you start solving, first of all, write the question number and the sub-question number. First, explain the first part of the question. Now, what is the name of the institution? Central bank is institution. In our country, it is the Reserve Bank of India, which enjoys a monopoly of note issue. Then go about and explain the functions of the institutions, right? So the first now is given by Roman number 1. So mention Roman number 1, bankers bank. Now under this, as a bankers bank, what are the functions that are fulfilled by the central bank? Write the points, create head points, underline them and explain those head points to justify how the central bank is a banker's bank, right? Now, once you're done solving the first part of your question, once you're done explaining how a central bank is a banker's bank, then we jump to the next part of the question, the second half of the question, that is how is it a banker to the government, or what are its function as a banker to the government. So you create Roman number 2, just like in the question, Roman number 2, banker to the government, underline it neatly so that the paper corrector knows that you are now attempting the second part of the question, right? And then give suitable point-wise if you do not have head points in the textbook as well. So you create, either you can create your own head points, but make sure you write them point-wise. If there are head points, write the head points and underline those head points so that you are showing that yes, this is how a central bank acts as a banker to the government. These are the possible explanations for the same, right? Now, very important question, law of demand and law of supply. Here, I'm going to discuss the law of demand and the format which I've already explained to you all and I've already made you all write in your books in the classroom while teaching in your classroom. But since it is an important concept, I will once again show you all how the answer for law of demand has to be written when it is asked for 5 marks. Okay. Likewise for law of supply as well, but I've only covered law of demand. The same thing holds for law of supply as well. You have to follow the same format, right? First of all, the very first thing is statement of the law. Now, what is the statement of the law? While writing the statement of the law, you have to make sure that you write the word ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus is an economic term and it is very important that you write this down. The board expects you to write this word in your law of demand, law of supply answers. What is ceteris paribus? It's nothing. It just means other things being equal, which we've done in class. Now, what are these other things? They are the determinants of demand and supply, right? So this is how you write a statement. The law of demand states ceteris paribus. Demand is inversely proportional to price. That is, when price rises, demand falls, and when price falls, demand rises. This is your statement. This is how you will explain it. This part is equally important. Students tend to jump from other things being equal to directly when price rises, demand falls. No, you have to mention demand is inversely proportional to price. This part is important. And this second part is only an explanation to what inversely proportional means. So make sure you write the entire statement of law of demand as well as law of supply properly and do not miss out on any points. The second part of your law of demand is assumptions of the law. Assumptions should be written in point-wise format, right? Now, students, what happens is that it has been noticed that students get confused between the demand and the supply concepts. They tend to make mistakes while drawing the demand curve and the supply curve. So please, when you're studying, learn your demand curves, understand the demand curve and supply curve, and you understand why each of them function differently. Understand that demand has an inverse relation, supply has a positive relation. If you understand this concept well, you will understand why the demand curves and the supply curves are different from each other. And you will know that, okay, the demand curve is a downward sloping curve from left to right, on the other, which is a negative slope, and supply slope is more of a positive slope, which is upward sloping. So if you understand the relation that demand and supply have with price, you will be able to understand how the diagram of the demand curves and the supply curves work. Right? So you learn this thoroughly because students tend to make and interchange the demand and supply curves, which leads them to lose marks. Right? So please make sure when you're learning these concepts, you pay attention, special care when you're learning demand and supply related concepts. The next thing that you will write is demand schedule. Demand schedule, you have to write. You have to construct the table, right? You have to show inverse relation between price and demand. So if you see, price is decreasing, quantity is increasing, right? This is an inverse relation between price and demand. Next is demand curve. So once you have drawn the schedule, make sure you draw the demand curve. Now demand curve, the figures has to be exactly the same that you have mentioned, the hypothetical numbers that you have mentioned in the demand schedule. Again, draw the curves properly, use a pencil, use your scale, construct the x-axis, the y-axis, yeah? Name them. Quantity is measured on x-axis. On the other hand, price is mentioned on the y-axis. Plot the figures, plot the numbers, plot the price, the quantity according to whatever schedule you have constructed, right? So your first initial quantity and price is 20, quantity is 1. That is your first point of equilibrium A. Second thing on the schedule is when price was 19. So you take from 19 and you plot it against quantity demanded 2 kg. So you plot them and you get a new equilibrium B. So likewise, you keep on, plotting your prices and your demands, quantity demanded that you have written in your demand schedule. And once you're done with that, you get 5 points of equilibrium. Depends now. Again, if in your schedule you have only written 4 quantities and prices, you will get 4 points of equilibrium. Whatever it is, you will get these points of equilibrium. Once you get these, you have to take a scale and you have to join the points. Now, once you join the points, you will get a demand curve and you will name that as DD. So DD is a demand curve. Draw your graphs correctly and neatly with complete details, including the labeling and the plotting. Students many a times do all of this very roughly. They do not take it seriously. Students, this is your board paper. Make sure each of the detailing is done properly and you do not miss out on any details, right? Draw your graphs correctly and neatly. And the last point, that is, please include the explanation to the graphs, which is important. Many a time students do not include the explanation. Explanation has to be mentioned at the end after you draw your demand curve. Now, tips for exam preparation. So while you're preparing for examinations, here are some tips that we wish to give you. When you're preparing for examination, prepare very brief notes, jotting down only the main points for each topic. It can include the conceptual clarity, it can include the basic keywords, the basic concept. So only so that in the last minute it helps you to revise and it emphasizes on your conceptual clarity. Solve specimen papers, previous year's board papers as much as possible. Now, since this is an economics paper, use economic terms wherever applicable and give relevant examples, real life examples also if possible, to support your answer. It will only make your answer stand out and help you fetch better marks. Now, this is not really compulsory, but if possible, try solving the board paper in writing, preferably during 11 to 2, because this is the time that the board conducts the exam. So when you're solving a paper, make sure you solve it seriously and you solve it as though you're giving your board exam. So it gives you the experience and the feels of solving a board paper, and will be more confident when you're actually solving the board paper. Learn the demand and supply related concepts thoroughly, students, time and again. History is it's evident from history that students tend to make mistakes in demand and supply simply because they do not understand the concepts. So I urge you all to please learn the concepts. By understanding it first, it will become much simpler for you and the mistakes that are made will reduce. Revise the key concepts and definitions on a regular basis so it stays in your mind and you do not forget it. Revise the entire syllabus thoroughly. Practice diagrams regularly. Most importantly, like I mentioned, understand them. Now, what are the points to be noted while attempting the paper? Write 2 points of explanation for 2 marks. 5 points of explanation. Of course, this means the header points and their explanation. So 5 head points explanation for 5 marks. Keywords to be included in definition. They must be a part of your definition. underline the keywords. Leave a line after each answer to mark the beginning of a new answer. Also, it improves the presentation, right? Start every new question on a new page. Start section B on a new page in the answer sheet. Always write those answers which you're thorough with, which you're confident about. Attempt those questions first. Analyze each question carefully before answering it. Design your answer according to the requirements. Do not write long and uneven paragraphs. If the question says describe, which means you're expected to write the meaning and the nature of the topic. If the question says discuss or explain, you should give arguments for and against the concept. Give real-life examples for concepts like food adulteration, consumer rights, etc., e-marketing, e-tailing to support your answers. Use of keywords are extremely important in banking-related concepts. Wind up your answer by summing up the main points or giving your final opinion in concluding paragraph. This is especially where a question is asked where you're expected to write an opinion on your own. Now, coming to the important concepts that are important from the board point of view. The first chapter is extremely important. It has huge amount of weightage, considering that other chapters have a lot of cancellations. In the past also, the first chapter holds a good amount of weightage from the board point of view, and therefore please learn the first chapter thoroughly. And these are some of the important concepts that I have noted down for you all. Of course, there are other points as well. Now, these important concepts does not mean that you learn only these points for your board examination, but it just means that please focus on these concepts and be more clear with these concepts. So the concepts, important concepts from the board point of view is division of labor, efficiency of labor, functions of entrepreneur, the process of capital formation, the concepts of demand and supply. It includes everything from increase in demand, decrease in demand, extension in demand, contraction in demand, increase in supply, decrease in supply, extension, contraction in supply, along with the laws, the determinants of demand and supply. Functions of central bank, very, very important. Types of inflation, this will be probably asked for 2 marks. Then consumer rights, which is again a very important question and has been very frequently asked in the board examination, not just in ECO but also in CS. So these are few of the important concepts that I felt must be put out there, and make you aware of. So yeah, I've compiled these few concepts for you all, but please learn other concepts as well. Do not ignore them. So we come to the end of this session, of this video. I hope you have understood what are the things that you must keep in mind while you're attempting the paper, and I hope that you implement it while attempting your paper. See you, students, and all the best.